Quid est veritas, est virciad est. There are no coincidences in this world. Everyone has a ceramic egg, waiting to be found. A secret society meets once every 3 years at a small diner in West Virginia. To join, you must come to the American Grill Diner located in Cricket at 9:30 p.m. on September the 21st. The only uniform is a heavy overcoat and a green tie. Order an eggs and bacon platter with coffee. The waiter will tell you that the breakfast menu is unavailable. Reply, "Well, just the coffee then." You'll be allowed to stay after closing time for the meet. The meeting itself is a meeting of minds and philosophy regarding immortality. The society is called the Socratic Method. They hoist their mugs at the beginning and end of the meeting and say, "Death to Socrates." It's rumored a little hemlock is added to the first cup, and an antidote to the last. Turn out the lights, all of them, shut your now useless eyes and focus on silence. Once you have blurred the noise around you, look inside, look deep into your heart for something that is not you. When you find it, ask its name. If it does not respond, say to it, "This is my body and I am king in it." You will speak. Then ask again. Listen closely with ears you don't have, to the voice you will hear faintly, then pull it from its resting spot and fight it. Should you ever despair of life so much that you want to die, you have the means at hand, and you have written a note to those you will leave behind and you are prepared to die. At that moment, stop. Cut away at the note until you end up with a piece of paper in the shape of a key. Go to a door, push the paper key forward and turn your hand as if unlocking it. The lock is real. Open the door. There you will find it. The other Earth. The one that waits to replace this one when it dies. That death is inevitable, but in the meantime the other Earth will belong to you. Be warned, the other Earth is very different from this one. In North America, along what is the border of Oregon and Washington, is a small shed off of the highway and in the woods. Within is a spiral staircase made of grating, which descends straight down. If you walk all of the way down, you'll find yourself stepping out into an endless field of tall grass. There are many bones surrounding the bottom step of the stairs, and things move in the near distance. No one who has seen these things has come back to say what they are. There's a small inconspicuous building called Padriac Willoughsby Company in the industrial district of Birmingham, UK. Its doors are locked and the windows are draped. However, on February 29th of every leap year, there will be a small plastic container outside the front door containing business cards. On the front of the card, it says in large capital letters, Padriac Willoughsby Co was England's thaumaturgical specialists. On the back, in nearly illegibly small type, it says, "The blood of the innocent." Any night after midnight one can come to Padriac Willoughsby Company and slide their card through the door. The door will instantly unlock. Inside there is an empty room with white walls. No light reaches this room, except for a small sliver from the other end of the room. When you approach this room you will find that it is actually another door. When you knock on it, a voice will ask, "What makes a man become exalted?" If you respond with the phrase on the back of the card, the door will open and you will come into another room. Inside it you will find around 5 or more people, depending on the night, sitting around smoking and drinking brandy, all in late Edwardian dress. There is absolutely no conversation at all in this room, and it is nearly silent except for the phonograph which plays the exact same record continually. If you attempt to speak to one of the patrons, they will promptly ignore you, and pretend as if you were not there. Towards the south wing of the room, you will find a large round table, slightly different from the others. On it will be a quill pen and a document. The document shows your personal information, name, birth date, place of residence, criminal record, greatest fears, and more. At the bottom of the document is a long line that asks for your signature. If you are watching television and the signal cuts out to static, turn the TV off immediately. Sometimes, if you watch the static on TV for long enough, the static will suddenly pause. All sound in the room will cease. Even the white noise of the TV itself will disappear. If this happens, you must not look away from the screen. You will probably not notice at the time. Before you lose your gaze on the TV, your body will freeze as well. Time around and with you have paused completely. Specks of the black and white dots slowly come to life, creeping slowly in seemingly random directions. Not static as you know it, but organizing themselves into a moving picture again in front of you. As the static returns to normal, and the white noise of the TV comes back, you will regain control of your body. You must never watch that television again. It will only play static, even when unplugged. If you watch the static any longer, these same events will reoccur, but with disastrous results. What exactly happens is unknown. as it is obvious that anyone that has been unfortunate enough to experience this has disappeared. It is rumored that if one continues to watch the static again, or during their experience, looks away, the white and black specks will slowly start to move again, but you will not. Your eyes will then be permanently fixated on the screen as you watch the picture come back to life, and what seems to be your station's signal return. You learn soon this is not the case, as all sound is still absent, and the picture on the TV shows a familiar surrounding, the room in which you sit. The only thing you see next is movement on the TV, as you see yourself from behind, and subsequently, the cause of your disappearance. There's a dark forest deep in the heart of the Rockies, surrounded on all sides by mountains. In the center of the forest is a lake, on the shores of which you will find a large black stone. If you swim out into the center of the lake, the stone will drag you down into the darkness. You will emerge from shadows in the alley of a frightening dark city of heavily arched roofs and buildings on stilts. You must not talk to a single citizen of this city, or you shall be trapped there forever. The citizenry is horrid and mutated, and they will leer and curse at you, and their hideous and deformed women shall offer you unknown and horrible lewdness. At the edge of this city is a highway. Walk down the left side of the road against traffic, with your thumb out, and a man in a dark truck shall pick you up and drive you back the way you came. The city will be gone, and he will take you to any place on earth as long as you can name it, and there's a road there. If you wait at any given train station and keep watching, a train will show up that is not on the schedule. If you get on the train, you will find that the inside of the train, despite what the train looks like on the outside, will be very elegant and old-fashioned. The train is full of other passengers dressed very fancy, and in an old fashion as well. There will be waitresses and waiters that will serve you. When the train makes a stop, you must get off then and there. After you get off the train, you will be in another train station, completely empty and decrepit. A man with a pocket watch hanging by a chain will come up to you and simply say, "You are late." At this point you must apologize for being late, then blame the train. You must not respond in any way other than this. He will hand you his pocket watch. By merely holding this watch, you will be able to go to any train station. Once there, a train will arrive that can take you to any train station in any time or location that you desire. However, should you forget to wind the watch and it ever stop, never take that train again. If you do, you will arrive in the train station once again with that man who gave you the watch, and this time he will not bother asking any questions. There is a village somewhere in England that has not been inhabited for over 20 years. It has long since been forgotten off of most maps, and only has one road in or out of it. If you manage to find it, it will seem a peaceable enough place, the derelict buildings being overgrown and nature taking back the land for herself. However, somewhere within the village is a vending machine which still has power. It will still have its original look and sell ordinary brands of drink, but with extremely old packaging. Pay only in 10-pence pieces to buy this drink. When you receive it, before drinking it, peer inside the can to check its color. If it is green, drink heartily, as it will give you an unnaturally long lifespan and good luck in everything you do. If it is red, however, it will spread a horrific pestilence over you, claiming one of your senses every 10 years after you drink it. At the edge of the Pacific Ocean, on an abandoned beach in the tropics, there is a large smooth rock that sits just beyond the reach of the highest tides. It is not cracked or marked in any way, and the smooth black stone reflects even the faintest of light. It's curved and formed in just such a way that if you are very careful, you can climb on top of it from the side, and stand on a flat area at the top. If you stand on the rock when the moon is full and shining, and the water is at its highest point, you can see something in the sea below you. It will become brighter and easier to see. If you dive towards the shining object, there will be no splash, no sound. You simply disappear into the ocean. No one knows what happens after you disappear. Some come back, appearing somewhere else on Earth, after what seemed to them a lifetime, but was only one day. If you kill a person of the same gender at midwinter and then bathe in their blood 2 days later, you will live as long as the other person would have lived if you hadn't killed them. Bathing in the blood of another gender will kill you, and bring the person you killed back to life for as long as you would have lived. In the most deserted part of Wyoming, there is a restaurant. There are no roads leading to it, and no signs advertising it. Upon walking inside, you will see that the entire place appears to be lost in the 1950s, in every respect. Take a seat. When the waitress comes to get your order, make it a cheeseburger with mashed potatoes. Afterwards, a red-haired lady should ask you to dance to a tune on the jukebox. Find the song on it that has the same number as your current age. Pick it, then dance. When the song ends, a flash of light will engulf the whole scene, and you will be standing outside your home the following morning. You now should have the power of clairvoyance for the remaining year. Rumor has it that every Halloween, during the hours of 2 a.m. and 5 a.m., there exists a void. You must stand in front of a mirror in a pitch-black room with your gaze fixed on the mirror. If you remain in the room when the moment arrives, you will feel a chill seize your body. Place your right hand on the mirror and whisper, "I accept." If done correctly, in the mirror, there will be a faint image of a fleshless infant with empty eyes. He will stare directly into your soul, and you will hear the buzzing of flies and nervous whispering. You will not be able to make out the image in the mirror, but you will be filled with unspeakable terror. The infant will ask you 5 questions about events that have occurred within your life. His voice will sound like the rubbing of sandpaper, and will be devoid of all emotion. For each question that you answer incorrectly, one of your 5 senses will be consumed. For each question that is answered correctly, you will be able to recite the name of someone you know. That person will be found dead the next morning, after a night of unimaginable horror, with their flesh removed and their eyes missing. At 12:17 a.m., on any given night, arises the opportunity to awaken an alternate soul. The most common way of viewing them is through a mirror. It is through said medium that the process must take place. Begin at exactly midnight. By no light but that of a single candle, stand before the selected mirror. For 10 minutes you must concentrate in silence, focused entirely on your reflection. Do not look away from the eyes, for it will be interpreted as weakness and you will be overcome. After 10 minutes have passed, you must draw blood to smear in a line across the eyes of your reflection. Doing so will blind it, and you will watch as your own features begin to warp. Slowly, gradually, they will mutate into a frightening creature, one beyond the comprehension of those who have not experienced it. You must not look away through the entirety of the change. Soon the writhing movements of the image will cease. By now, an echoing, inhuman sound will resound all around you. The creature will begin to ease toward the mirror's glass. You must keep watching as it approaches. If you do not extinguish the candle at exactly 12:17, the creature will escape. Be warned, should you succeed. Through any polished surface, be it mirror, wood or window, your reflection will always be watching. They say that somewhere in Western America, there's a small motel on the side of the road. When you go inside, it's decorated in very common hotel attire, with the paneling and old-fashioned key-lock doors. The thing is, there's a room in there for everybody. Everybody has a reservation for exactly when they show up, and the number of rooms available is always one more than the number of people there. One person to a room, that is the rule. Nothing else is known about it. There is a house somewhere in China, built sometime after the first emperor had unified the country. The house is built in treacherous terrain, and has not been seen by human eyes for some time. If you stay in the house, you'll notice something very strange. If you take measurements, you'll find that the inside of the house is larger than the outside. First it'll be a fraction of an inch, then a foot, then a yard. There will be features from the inside that are impossible to find externally, like extra rooms and hallways. Going within these is safe, and you can see the outside, but strangely enough, no one at the outside can see you or the feature. Most people get out at this point, but their vision is forever altered. The world keeps distorting in dimensions and size in their eyes. Then there are those who choose to stay further, and have never been seen again. It is said that they occupy the parts of the building that only reveal themselves to those who stay longer. There is a moment each leap year, at exactly 3 minutes past 3, on the morning of February the 29th. If you possess the courage, await that moment in a darkened room, with no others present. At that moment, the darkness will deepen. If you were to hold your hand directly before your face, you would not see a thing, but you must not do so. For that would be to waste the moment. Instead you must reach out, into that impenetrable darkness, and it will reach out to you. An unseen hand will grasp yours. You must not flinch away, nor tighten your grasp. To do so will only slough away more of the decrepit flesh that covers it and anger its unseen owner. Remain perfectly still, as the withered fingers move over your palm, tracing unknown patterns. Do not move an inch as it crawls slowly up your arm, and most of all, do not even breathe as it caresses your face, touching what cannot be seen. Should you remain still through this, the hand will be withdrawn and a voice will speak, so close you can feel its breath on your face, smell the scent of decay it carries. It will ask you for one simple piece of information: your name. Answer truthfully. Answer truthfully, and the presence will retreat, leaving only a whisper in the air, as the darkness lifts. It is done. From that day on, untold good fortune will be yours, and mysterious power. You will lack nothing, and have everything. But in a year, perhaps 2, you will feel your skin begin to decay, and smell the sweet smell of death upon your breath. Every 23,375 days, exactly at 12:04 p.m., at exactly 64 equal rotations of the planet, at 0 degrees latitude and 0 degrees longitude, the tide of the ocean will suddenly drop. A building roughly the size of 3 city blocks, covered with bas reliefs, will rise suddenly from the depths. This building will then begin to sink immediately, and will submerge completely within 2 minutes. According to eyewitness accounts, the reliefs depict certain famous events in human history, including events that had not yet happened. Somewhere in the Pacific Ocean is an island, surrounded by a swamp filled with the carcasses of fish, and other, less recognizable things poking out of the mud. The mire extends as far as you can see. Every so often, the mud will dry enough that you can walk on it. About a day's travel from shore is a large mound, at the top of which is an immense canyon, the bottom of which cannot be seen, although if the moon is large enough, you will be able to see the slope of the canyon, and eventually the bottom, which is covered by a strange body of water. Rising from the water is another monolith, covered in bas reliefs. Mix a shot of whiskey, a drop of blood, 1 drop from each person, a pinch of salt, and a small amount of anointing oil. Mix with water from a fountain found while traveling, in a glass bottle, and smash it on the interstate in the evening or early morning. If the instructions were followed correctly, the way will become densely foggy. An unmarked exit will appear. If you pass it by, it will be closed to you for 6 years. If you take the exit, go half a mile down the road and you will find a small shop. The shop sells objects you will not find anywhere else, and food which has mystical properties. Pay the proprietor only in metal coin. All mirrors are actually windows to another world. This world cannot be reached, and shouldn't be reached, as all of our mirror selves are extremely malicious. They are only allowed to exist in the area reflected in the glass. There was a time, though, when it wasn't like this. There is a certain road near Coburg, Germany, which, if you drive down it alone in the rain, day or night, you will suddenly have a very real feeling of being completely lost. If you try to find a map, it will have mysteriously vanished. If you continue forward down the road for more than a minute, you will find that you can't turn around, and everything behind you is pitch dark, and there are no other roads. Continuing down the road, you will come upon a fork with no signposts. In the middle of the fork, there will be a man, covered head to foot in various pieces of clothing. The only skin visible will be around his eyes, which will be a very sickly color. You must walk to the man, but stop at least 3 feet away. You must stand there silently, waiting for him to speak first. If you break the silence first, you will find yourself back on a main road, but you will die within 24 hours. If he speaks first, he will ask you what you require. Tell him that you need to know which road will take you to your destination. He will then ask you what you will offer him in exchange for his assistance. You must offer him your loyalty and kneel before him. If you do this, he will close his eyes and bow in return, extending a hand to whichever path will lead you back to safety. It is said that somewhere in a desert, there stands a single unwithering red rose. You may pick it, or if you bring it 10 rose petals, 3 from a pink rose, 2 from a red rose and 5 from a white rose, on a new moon, a new unwithering rose will sprout and you may pick it. If you give it a black rose and blood from your wrist, a whip made of a large black rose will sprout. In 4 different subway stations around the world, there are 4 different hobos. If you speak to one for a while, they will start to recount tales of incredible treasure that they accumulated back in the 1800s. Now, they could just be crazy bums, but all of their stories are exactly the same, in every detail, except for where they hid it. If you need to get home quick, there's a special bus that only runs a north-south route. Tell the bus driver, I need to catch the sun before it sets. You won't have to pay fare, and he'll make a special stop along his route. Another bus will be waiting for you, heading west. After 5 minutes and 55 seconds, you'll end up in the town you were born, at sunset. If you wake in the middle of the night, don't move. No matter how uncomfortable you get, you will eventually lose the urge to move. Soon after, you will be awake, but you will be unable to move. You will not be able to feel the bed against your body, or your own breathing. As you do this, you are watching yourself fall asleep. In your mind, say to yourself, I welcome the servant and the watcher. Once your body falls asleep, you will be visited by two people that you know very well. If you have treated these people well, they will bring you a gift. This is a gift of the mind, which you must never misuse or speak about. If you have mistreated them, they will bring you something which you have never seen, but will recognize instantly. You will wake up and forget the object. You will see that object one more time. During the spring of 1902 in the dry Tortugas Islands, a man was shot and the bullet protruded slightly from the back of his skull into a tree, which he had his back against at the time. As time passed and the tree continued to grow, his putrefied corpse was lifted into the boughs as his skull was still attached loosely to the tree by the bullet. Time passed, and the tree grew around the skeleton. If you can find this tree on one of the islands, tap it 3 times with your heel. Your reflexes and powers of evasion will be greatly enhanced. There is a child in a hospital in Stoke-on-Trent, England. The child is a quiet toddler that remains in the nursery with all the other newborns. If you ask the staff about him, they will ignore you, but the tag on his arm is yellowed and marked 1948. He will not cry, only rock quietly. If you speak the name on his tag, his eyes will open and relate to you frightening knowledge. In Council Crest Park in Portland, Oregon, at the top of the knoll, there is a large paved circle enclosed by a short stone wall. The area has a couple dedications on it, and there is a massive compass of inlaid marble paved into the area, so you know which way you're looking. Stand on the west compass point, and walk over to the wall it is pointing to. Now look at the stones that the wall is made of. Moving south along the wall, count 10 stones along the bottom row, and then give the 11th stone a nice hard kick. As you will easily hear, this stone is hollow. The 11th stone is the only hollow one. Something is contained inside. Get on any passenger bus that travels a long distance. Greyhound is usually a good pick. Anything that's on the road for longer than 24 hours. Get a window seat facing west, then stare at the sun, waiting until sunset. Just before the sun touches the horizon, close your eyes, hard. Do not turn away, don't look at anything else. Cover your ears if you have to. After a while, you'll notice that the bus has stopped moving. That's the signal that you can open your eyes. When you do, you'll see a gas station, illuminated only by a few flickering fluorescent lights. There will be no sun, no moon, no stars in the sky. The convenience store will have its windows boarded up, but the sign will say, "Open." If you feel you can't go through with it, get back on the bus, return to your seat, and fall asleep. You'll wake up at sunrise the next day, well on your way to wherever the bus was going. If you enter the store, the door will slam shut behind you. You will spend an unknown amount of time there, living out your worst nightmares made real. If you survive the ordeal without going mad, you will awake back on the bus, as it reaches its destination. Nothing will ever scare you again. Some say that after this ordeal, anything else simply pales in comparison. Others say that all that room contains is all the fear you will ever feel in your entire life, and exposing yourself to it all at once keeps you from feeling any more. This, however, can only be done once. There are some exceptions to the ability as well. In the heart of the Rockies lies a grove of trees growing in a perfect circle. A grove that, aside from this geometric oddity, appears perfectly innocuous from the outside. If one should step foot into this grove, however, the inside will be as dark as any moonless night in those mountain woods, even on the brightest summer's day. Those who have mistakenly wandered into the grove are rarely in any condition to say what happens inside. Many simply never come out. However, if you are very brave, or very foolish, you can attempt to camp within the grove. Go in with your eyes shut tight, lie down in your sleeping bag, and no matter what you hear, no matter what you feel, do not open them again. If you somehow manage to find your way to sleep before the grove takes your sanity or your life, you will awaken in the middle of the day, to the light of the sun on your face in the middle of a grove. A grove that, aside from growing in a perfect circle and containing your heart's one greatest desire, is perfectly innocuous. If one should step foot outside this grove, however, they will find the outside to be dark as any moonless night in those mountain woods. In almost every building there is one corner, one small enclosure that no one ever looks at. It's the corner in the basement that has been blocked by a disused sofa for years. The thin space in the attic between the wall and the stacks of crates full of junk you never use, but could never throw away. The space that never sees the light of day, or any other kind of light at all. Where darkness does not merely dominate, but practically oozes out from around the edges of its prison. No one knows quite how long a space must remain concealed for it to acquire this particular property, nor if there are any specific conditions it must meet. But it is a far more common occurrence than you might think. In newer buildings, when this happens, the residents often report feeling cold when passing by, even in attics during the hottest of summers. When contemplating a quick peek to see if anything is actually there, an unnatural dread seizes them, and they leave the room quickly, if not quite running. Once left behind, the feeling passes, and it is quickly forgotten, or laughed off. What actually happens in these forgotten sanctuaries of the dark, it is impossible to tell. For while many such corners have been exposed to reveal absolutely nothing, some brave souls have lost their sanity through nothing more than an ill-timed glance. The safest thing to do when encountered with such a phenomenon: close your eyes, rip away the area's covering in a single motion, then keep a tight hold on what you've pulled away. No matter what you hear or feel, do not get up, do not look around, and do not try to cover your ears. You might be one of the lucky ones. An odd occurrence has been rumored to happen in a certain pub at night in southwest Germany. If you sit in the stool farthest from the door while one beside it is empty, order a round for yourself, and offer to buy one for the Baron. The bartender will without question or expression pour 2 beers from the tap. He'll place one beside you, and the moment the other one hits the table, the room will go dark and silent, save for the sound of footsteps as a man in uniform sits beside you. It is believed that it is indeed Captain Manfred von Richthofen, although no one is sure because they can barely see their own glass, much less the person's face. No one who's told this story has had the nerve to touch him, or risk insult, and the figure does not say a word. But apparently if you were to ask him, "So sir, what's the condition at the front?" he would tell you startling details about the region's future, and sometimes how they connect to the world as a whole. Those who lived long enough after the fact claim that these events took place the exact amount of years from the date they asked as from the date Baron von Richthofen died in battle. Yet this cannot be confirmed, because every time the figure has been asked the question after 1964, he's only replied with a cold laugh. A little-known fact is that the Eisenhower Interstate system is built over major ley lines. If specific conditions are met, weird phenomena will occur. The first sign of this phenomenon is that you will lose all radio reception and electronic devices will cease functioning. Your heater will begin to only dispense cold air, regardless of setting. After the first mile of this, you will notice a fog growing at the edges of the road, and you will see no exits, regardless of whether they are supposed to be there. If you continue on, you will begin to see a pedestrian occasionally. Some of them will gesture that they would like or need a ride. Under no circumstances should you stop for them. If you see lights approaching from behind, and it is a hearse, do not let it pass you. After 13 miles, the phenomenon will end, and you will be safe. There is a doorway, one that can be any door, at any time. This door leads nowhere, yet there lies a realm of twisted reality to the opener. This door exists for everyone. Some never encounter it in their lives, others unknowingly open it and step through. The problem is, you can't tell if the door is open to you until years after you step through it. You'll see them, and they'll finally see you. Go to any high-traffic bathroom. It must be a high-traffic bathroom, otherwise the room will not have enough latent residual energy to carry out the task. A hotel bathroom is perfect. Make sure it is after 12 p.m., and you have 2 clove cigarettes. The stronger the cigarette, the higher your success rate. Sit in the dark and begin smoking one of the cigarettes. Make sure there is a mirror present, and that you look at your reflection at all times. The burning cherry should provide just enough light for this. When you have smoked the cigarette within a 1/4 in of the filter, the room should be full of smoke. Your eyes will no doubt be watering, but do not blink. Do not take your eyes off the mirror or your reflection, whatever you do. To blink will make all you have done at this point for naught. You will begin to notice that your reflection will fade into black. The reflection of the cherry from your cigarette will begin to separate into 2 red eyes. The smoke in the room will begin to condense, and before you even realize it has happened, a shade will be sitting on the ledge of the sink. He will ask you for a cigarette, which is why you're instructed to bring 2. Give the shade his cigarette, which will light itself once he brings it to his withered lips. At this point, you can ask the shade any question you want, and he will answer true. Anything you could possibly think of. Be sure to keep an eye on how much of the cigarette he has smoked. When it gets to the point where it will only take a few more hits to kill it, the smoke from the other cigarette will begin to define more of his features, making him more material than ethereal. At this point, stand up and snatch out his eyes in one sweeping motion. He should still be mostly smoke, so your hands should pass easily through his head. If you let him finish the cigarette, he will attack you, almost surely taking your life in the process. The shade will begin screaming and cursing you, and the hand holding his eyes will be burning intensely. Do not open your hand. Even though the eyes are disembodied, they can see if they are out in the open. Run to the light switch and flip it on. This will banish his physical form and send him back into the ether. Leave the room and wait until 3 a.m. to open your hand. The burning will be unbearable until then. You will have 4 burn marks on your palm when you open it, all cauterized and mostly healed. From then on you can never be in a dark room with a mirror, because the shade will be able to track you through the burns in your hand. Black hell dogs will now aid him, given his loss of sight, and they are far more terrible than the shade could ever be. You will now be given the ability to perform minor miracles. Your dreams will always be nightmares, but in them, you will be granted clairvoyance. You will never be able to see anything good, only the most horrific future events. A small price to pay for absolute knowledge. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more.